हाय हॅलो वेलकम बॅक टू इनोटॉक्स. इनोटॉक्सची आम्ही जेव्हा 6 महिन्यापूर्वी सुरुवात केली तेव्हा मनामध्ये एकच गोष्ट ठाम होती की वेगवेगळे विषय घेऊन तुमच्यापर्यंत पोचावेत. मग ती कुठल्या भाषेमध्ये तुमच्यापर्यंत पोचावेत याचा खरंच विचार केला नव्हता. पण कालांतराने 30 एपिसोड शूट करता करता जसे वेगवेगळे गेस्ट्स आमच्या समोर येत गेले तशी गेस्ट्स ज्या भाषेमध्ये कम्फर्टेबल असतील तशा भाषेमध्ये सुद्धा आम्ही शूट करण्याचा प्रयत्न करत राहिलो. काही एपिसोड पूर्णपणे मराठीत आम्ही केले, काही एपिसोड आम्ही मिंग्लिश म्हणजे मराठी आणि इंग्लिश यामध्ये पण केले. आजचा एपिसोड थोडासा खरंच खास आहे. आज आपण शूट करतोय आर्मी आणि एअरफोर्स मधल्या 2 दिग्गज ऑफिसर्स सोबत. आणि आजचा जो विषय आपण हाताळणार आहोत तो सुद्धा खूप सेन्सिटिव्ह असा विषय आहे आपल्या देशाच्या दृष्टिकोनातनं सुद्धा. आणि खूप सारे प्रश्न आम्ही डिस्कस करणार आहोत. विषय आहे अर्थात ऑपरेशन सिंदूर, जो मे महिन्यामध्ये आपल्या देशाने पाकिस्तानवर गाजवला होता. ह्या पॉडकास्टच्या एपिसोडमध्ये विचारलेले प्रश्न आणि त्यांची उत्तरं तुमच्यापर्यंत सुंदररित्या पोचावीत म्हणून हा एपिसोड आम्ही पूर्णपणे इंग्लिशमध्ये शूट करतोय. आम्ही मराठी सबटायटल्स देऊच, पण हा एपिसोड तुम्ही शेवटपर्यंत बघाल आणि हा तुम्हाला एपिसोड खूप आवडेल अशी सुद्धा आम्ही आशा करतो. धन्यवाद.
We don't care, and we will actually take it into where it hurts you.
Yeah.
And that's what we did over 4 days. They retaliated by choosing targets, again, to incite religious fervor, reactions, by choosing targets along the border. But they chose the Golden Temple. They chose Vaishno Devi. They chose Shankaracharya Hills.
Yes.
And as much of civilian infrastructure on the border areas which they could.
Sindoor hasn't been called off. It is very much in existence as we speak. Then you rely on satellite imagery. And your satellite imagery, if it's not your own satellites, if it's not those high resolution cameras that you yourself have, the great powers are not going to be giving it to you so easily.
So operational preparedness is there. We were ready for it this time by forward deployments.
What Pakistan doesn't have as compared to what we have is something called defense in depth, that their DGMO had to actually call up, and he was kept waiting for 12 hours before we finally responded. So everything is electronic.
Everything is now electronic. Everything has come together.
How you handle the electronic spectrum.
What needs to come together further is somewhere our psychological warfare, our media handling, these aspects, the softer aspects of warfare.
The Command and Control Center at Noor Khan Air Base, the planning headquarters at Rahimyar Khan Air Base, the UAV and radar sites at Sukur were taken out. The AEW aircraft which were there for maintenance at a base called Solari, that was bombed. The hangar was bombed. Sargodha, which is the jewel piece of the Pakistani Air Force, like our 2 big bases, Adhampur and Halwara. Sargodha was bombed right in the middle of the runway. That's the major F-16 base there. The secondary F-16 base is called Jacobabad. That was also bombed. Tejas, it's not just fighter aircraft. It's refuelers. It's AWCs, the whatever you call them, the airborne early warning aircraft. We're talking of 2 kinds of drones. We have to develop them ourselves. One is the surveillance drones, which locate the enemy radars. The others are the soldier drones, the armament infested drones, which actually take out, and they have onboard armament which they use, like you've seen in movies, to take out whatever targets and replace where you would not want to send in a fighter aircraft.
Every nation has an army. Pakistan's army has a nation. It's more and more true.
Hi, hello, welcome back to InnoTalks. Pakistan's terrorism has continued for decades now. Be it the wars that we have fought with Pakistan, or be it the Kargil war in 2000, or in the recent time, be it the Mumbai terror attack, or Pulwama, or even Uri. Pakistan has never relented from sending its terrorists into the Indian lands. Of course, our tri-services, the Indian Army, the Indian Airforce, and the Indian Navy, have always given a befitting reply to Pakistan's terrorism. In April this year, although, Pakistan crossed all boundaries when the members of the TRF, what they call as the Resistance Front, came into Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam and they shot 25 Indian citizens at point blank range. I still remember that day when the Prime Minister of our country, Modi ji, decided to give Pakistan a befitting reply, and what followed was Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor demonstrated our superior air power, and in an 88-hour operation that was conducted by the Air Force, and of course with the support of the Indian Army and the Indian Navy, we showed Pakistan what our capabilities are. Not just Pakistan, but we also showed the world what our ammunition stores really are. But it definitely left a lot of questions. Will there be Operation Sindoor version 2? How prepared are we if another Operation Sindoor happens in our country? What is the Air Force thinking? What is the Indian Army thinking? What is the Navy's role going to be if another such operation comes to the fore? So today in the InnoTalk studio, we have two accomplished officers from the Indian Army and the Indian Air Force. I have with me Major General Manoj Oak, and I also have with me Wing Commander Pramit Moulick. Welcome to InnoTalks.
Thank you very much, Tejas.
Thank you very much.
I think before we begin and discuss the Operation Sindoor as a topic, I would allow you to introduce yourself. Wing Commander Moulick.
That's a long rainbow, but I'll make it brief and briefly introduce myself. I'm from NDA. In fact, we both are course-mates. I'm from the Air Force. He's from the Army. We joined NDA in Jan 77, passed out in December 79. 1 year later, both of us commissioned on the same day from our respective academies. I'm 57th Course, Charlie Squadron. He's 57th Course, Foxtrot Squadron. And I got into the fighter stream, going through the various training phases. Finally, I got onto the MiG-21s. And I flew the MiG-21s for the first 4 to 5 years of my service career. I got my operational status over there, both day and night. And then was fortunate enough to be part of the first and the original team that was to go across to the erstwhile USSR to train and start flying the then new machine that the world was talking about, the MiG-29, the powerful MiG-29. Thereafter, I have consolidated on the MiG-29 for a decade or so after 86, 87. And finally, I stopped active fighter flying somewhere close to 97. I've been in command appointments thereafter and commanded a unit before I finally took voluntary retirement in 2003. Beyond that, my aviation career has spanned through civil aviation for the next 20 years. And next month, I'll be completing the first year of retirement. That in a nutshell is my basic introduction. In terms of operational experience, like I said, I have been part of the MiG-21 fleet, and more consistent, I have been on the MiG-29 stream, and I have actually taken part in wherever and whatever the requirements for the MiG-29 happened during that tenure from 1987 till 1997, barring 2 years of my instructional tenure as a qualified instructor. And that's about sums up my introduction for this podcast.
I've always wondered what goes on in the mind of a fighter pilot when he sits in that cockpit and he's mid-air. If you had to sum it up in a couple of lines, I'm sure it won't do justice, but it may not do justice, but I would love to know.
The thrill is the same. Every time you walk in to the cockpit, walk up to the aircraft, and once the canopy is closed, the engines are started, your mind is only focused on the mission that you have for the time, whether it's by day, whether it's by night. And that continues consistently every time you get in and every time you land back safely. So if one can sustain that, that shows how much of dedication and passion that you have towards fighter flying.
When did you first decide that you wanted to be a part of the Air Force?
Well, since childhood, I was fortunate. My father was in the civil aviation department. So I practically grew up close to a civil aerodrome at various places across the country. Bombay, Calcutta, Imphal, Belgaum, Varanasi. And that's how my affinity towards airplanes, flight, and finally the Air Force came in. Applied for the National Defence Academy, was fortunate enough to get selected, and thereafter I've done my bit for the Air Force and have reposed the faith that my instructors had in me when I was a cadet, when I was a trainee, through my Air Force career.
It's an honor to have you, sir, in this studio today. I'm sure the topic is very sensitive and dense, and your thoughts will be very interesting for our InnoTalks audience.
Thank you very much.
General, sir, could you introduce yourself as well?
Well, at the outset, Tejas, great pleasure to be with you on this podcast, and happy to be with my dear friend and coursemate, Commander Moulick, along with
Likewise.
me. As you said, both of us are from the same course, from the NDA, and coincidentally, both of us are wearing the same NDA tie, and, which we are very proud. And as our Prime Minister spoke time and again, pre-Sindoor and op-Sindoor, about jointness, this is where the jointness actually starts, from National Defence Academy, from where both of us, as he said, got trained, and we left the academies in 1979. He charted his path ahead as a fighter pilot. I went through the army chain and NDA to Indian Military Academy in 1980, and then got commissioned in 9 Mahar, an infantry battalion of the Mahar regiment. And my first posting was in Poonch as a second lieutenant in J&K. It was deployed on the line of control, opposite to eyeball-to-eyeball contact with the Pakistani posts in that area. That was the Poonch Brigade, 93 Brigade, and I was in one of the battalions of this brigade. Wonderful first 2 years. That initiation which I got in the first 2 years of active soldiering with the finest soldiers of on this earth that I can imagine, gave me the initial foundation. What I personally think is to become a good officer. So when I joined, my aim was to become a good officer, to be accepted as a good officer, and to be able to deliver the requirements of as an infantry officer in the battalion. As time progressed, I found that the battalion did good to me, in which I got commissioned, and I had then a good mix of soldiering along with the battalion wherever the unit moved. As you know, infantry battalions keep moving from field to peace and back to field in different challenging areas of India. And I also was selected as an instructor as a captain. Then I did my staff college and went on staff appointments, and was lucky to get back to my battalion as a commanding officer. So that I personally feel is a great amount of satisfaction one gets in life if you get commissioned in a battalion and get to command the same battalion. So I think in that I was very fortunate as a colonel. That journey in between a second lieutenant to a colonel is all about soldiering, instructional and staff. And I've served in all, generally the field areas which you go to. Nagaland is where I've served. Thrice I served in J&K. And Rajasthan is where extensively we got deployed, part of the battalion. And the highlight of my time in the battalion was my tenure with the battalion in Kargil, Siachen, Turtuk, Eastern Ladakh. Those 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was in Operation Blue Star, and in Nagaland we call it Operation Hifazat against the Naga rebels. This gave me a good amount of experience as to what it really means to be an operational man, how to actually be a good officer and be able to achieve results in operations. Thereafter, I was selected to do a course in defense management called the Long Defense Management course. I was in the faculty that is the College of Defense Management in Secunderabad. And there I did the course, was for 3 years as an instructor in the faculty of CDM. Then went to command my brigade. They gave me a brigade in Tibri, Gurdaspur. And after again staff appointments as a brigadier, in operations side, I commanded a division thereafter. And that division was 14 infantry division. That time we used to call 14 rapid, wherein we had 2 infantry brigades and an armored brigade and artillery brigade. So it was a very potent force, and that was a very satisfying tenure of mine. And I retired as a Major General thereafter in 2017, and now happily settled in Pune, and with some wonderful memories of soldiering, and actively remembering at all times all those who have sacrificed and made a supreme sacrifice for the cause of the unit, the regiment, the army, and the motherland. Yeah. And I constantly draw inspiration from those who are not here any longer with us and who made that supreme sacrifice. That always in the morning when I get up, I think of them and then start my day.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming again to the InnoTalks studio. The last time you came in, we spoke about your memories from the army. And today we have a very interesting topic again. So, setting the stage, Pakistan has always been at it. And since 1990, like you last time told us, Pakistan has been infiltrating terrorists through our borders. But this time they went too far. And when Operation Sindoor happened, we also gave them a befitting reply. From your perspective, was Operation Sindoor really, what was Operation Sindoor really about? And was it truly effective? Could you help us understand?
This is the first time, unlike earlier times, when Pakistan has come in and caused havoc, whether it be Bombay, like you said, whether it be Uri or Pulwama. That's when a determined nation decided in its policies to strike back. Whether it was the surgical strike by the Indian Army, or it was the Balakot strike on the terror camps. And this time, like you correctly said, we went one notch higher and we went on an all-out offensive spanning over almost 4 days, 88 hours, as you call Operation Sindoor 1.0.
Pakistan over a period of time, as you said in the introduction, has been playing a very shady game. They have not been forthright in the dealing with India and what we call as proxy war. As I told you last time, that they realized that they cannot really conventionally take on India, and India is a superior armed force. So they took this proxy war route and started causing all sorts of issues in J&K. This is the time when India showed, after what happened in Pahalgam, that it is no longer going to tolerate any further mischief, and a very clear resolve at the national level and a very clear vision of the political vision of as well as preparedness is what comes out of the decision to go in for Operation Sindoor, right from the naming of the operation as Sindoor. By giving it a name Sindoor, it itself conveyed the message that targeted justice is going to be meted out to Pakistan. And over a period of 4 days, we saw what India did to Pakistan, because this is a new normal. As and what it has indicated is that any act of terror is equal to an act of war
From now on.
From now, and we'll respond accordingly. And none of this nuclear blackmail business कि हमारे पास nukes है, हम तो fire कर देंगे and we will cause so much of destruction. All that nuclear blackmail doesn't matter. We don't care, and we will actually take it into where it hurts you.
Yeah.
And that's what we did over 4 days. And how we did it, why we did it, is what I'm trying to say. And the manner in which we did it is to be really appreciated. And that is what we are, I think, going to talk about in the next few minutes. An hour.
In the recent past, like you mentioned, the strikes on Balakot, that was done by the Air Force. Our mission, the mission was very quick and just lasted a few hours perhaps. But this time, when the Indian Air Force went in, we struck deep into the Pak-occupied Kashmir, destroyed their terror camps, and also destroyed their military assets, so to say. So the question that is going on in my mind is, when the services decide on an objective to be fulfilled, how is a mission and how is the goalpost defined? How was it defined for Operation Sindoor?
Immediately after the Pahalgam attack, they had preparatory time of close to 2 weeks, approximately 2 weeks. Intense activity goes on in that period in terms of gathering information through surveillance, all kinds of surveillance, space, air, human, ground surveillance, electronic surveillance, in all the dimensions, to build up a picture based on what you want to achieve in terms of your initial targeting. As is known in the open domain, the initial targeting was only to target the terror headquarters, the terror facilities over there, and nothing else, and ensure that there's going to be no collateral damage onto civilian as well as military property.
I just add a bit. Yes. But a very basic thing is that Sindoor, what Promit just said, to qualify it further, was that the very clear objectives were, I think, given out at the apex level. And in that, I'm sure over a period of time, about 2 weeks that they got, they came out with the aim of Operation Sindoor. And if I may just say that the aim is very clear, that was to take out the terror targets that we wanted to take out, which we chose a total of 9 targets. So that is what I want to say, that when an operation at the national level is conceived and is thought of to be executed, there are very many options in front of the country. And what I want to bring out over here is that why Sindoor was conducted in the manner in which it was conducted in 4 days was after a well thought out decision, which was that it should be a non-escalatory operation. That is, we are not wanting to escalate it. It is calibrated, it is precise, and as Promit said, we don't want collateral damage. We are not targeting your civil infrastructure, not even your military infrastructure. We're only targeting your terror infrastructure, which is interfering in directly within our territory and causing a lot of damage to us whenever Pakistan gets an opportunity. So we wanted to give them and show them a lesson once and for all that this is not acceptable. This is an act of war against us. But we are choosing only terror targets. We could have chosen any other targets also to begin with.
Eventually, we did go in and attack their military assets.
That was later.
after
that.
It was also retaliatory.
That is again a well thought out, well planned, anticipated, war gamed option that we exercised in the part 2 of Sindoor. If you look at Sindoor, you can divide it in actually 3 parts. First part is, as you know, the 6th and 7th early morning. That too we chose the time when minimum collateral damage will happen. When we targeted their terror targets. Thereafter, we left it to them and told them, look, from our side, we don't want to escalate it. We have destroyed what we perceive as terror targets. Thereafter, it was up to them.
We waited for their response.
And their response, if you notice, was on the expected lines. They retaliated by choosing targets, again, to incite religious fervor, reactions, by choosing targets along the border, but they chose the Golden Temple. They chose Vaishno Devi. They chose Shankaracharya Hills.
Yes.
And as much of civilian infrastructure on the border areas, which they could. And this is what they did on the ensuing 2 nights, the night of 7th, 8th and night of 8th, 9th. How they did it basically is what I think Promit will describe better in terms of how they initiated. The drones came in, then they tried to suppress our AD, then they tried to get the missiles and strike us because they wanted to check, because they were stunned by the first night, 6-7 night accuracy, which we had shown over those 9 targets.
Yes.
Like we chose with a reason, and everything had a well thought out reason why we chose Bahawalpur, Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters, in a renovated place. I mean, the amount of backing that Jaish-e-Mohammed is getting from the present government over a period of time is their old headquarters was changed and they went into a new kind of a structure where we chose that one, Jaish-e-Mohammed. Then we chose the LET headquarters in Muridke.
Yes.
And then we took on 2 more targets in the Pakistan mainland, if I may say. One was in Chakamru and one was in Sialkot, other 2. And then we chose another 5 targets in Pakistan occupied Kashmir, coming down from Muzaffarabad. We took Kotli, we took Bhimber, we took Gulpur, and we took one more target there.
Yes.
A total of 9 targets that we got, which was divided into 2 for the Air Force because it was well into the depth, Pakistan, Muridke and all. But the ones which were along the border, and that Northern Command was able to take it on, those balance of the targets which we neutralized.
But even before Operation Sindoor, Operation Sindoor, they are saying in the media also that it may not have happened, or the Pahalgam attack, so to say, happened due to an intelligence failure. And what I read in the media during the research was that these 2 members from the resistance front, or the TRF that they call it, when they came into Pahalgam, they were already armed with satellite imagery and they knew exactly where they wanted to come and how they wanted to attack. After the abrogation of 1970, Jammu and Kashmir was seeing an upsurge in the number of tourists and everybody was having a great time there. But then was it an intelligence failure really? Was the army relaxed, or could it have been prevented is probably the question.
Yeah, it is always going to be a question asked as to, in that meadow, Baisran meadow in Pahalgam, how come that there was nobody there and so many civilian tourists have come in there, and it took some time for the initial reaction to come in. And so I'll come to it a little later, but to answer your question first is about intelligence failure. See, we have been into a counter-terrorist operations mode, which we call Operation Rakshak. The Indian Army and the security forces, which has also got paramilitary, we got CRPF, we got J&K police, we got all other intelligence apparatus. So we got a robust intelligence apparatus which is functioning in J&K for a long time now. And intelligence operations are very, very, I would say, tedious, and operations where things can easily go wrong, because it is not so very easy to track the movements of a terrorist outfit when it is coming up to the border, when it is getting shielded by the border outposts of Pakistan, and from where, given an opportunity of bad weather conditions and also with the help of fire, which they do on the line of control. They push through terrorists. If you look at the terrain that is there in J&K, especially across in the valley, whether it is the Baramulla sector or the Kupwara sector or the Gurez sector, these are all Himalayan ranges with heights ranging from 9 to 10 to 11,000 feet to good about 19,000 feet is where, and it is not very easy to have human intelligence, and during operations or during bad weather, it is not possible to really to target and to get and to sense the infiltration that happens. Infiltration is bound to happen in some measure. Thereafter is when they come in, terrorists, when they come in. So definitely, as I think I mentioned in my last interaction with you, that there are certain elements within. No terrorism can survive without the support of the local population. So let's not say that everything is hunky-dory. There are some elements who are still supporting these terrorists. And now the modus operandi of terrorists has changed. What they do is now they are going into the higher reaches of the Pir Panjal range. Pir Panjal range is one geographical feature which is of utmost strategic importance for all operations which is going to happen across into Pakistan. And they, unfortunately, Pir Panjal range is a very challenging area. It is again nearly high altitude, and there are many places where a small terrorist group can hide into the caves, into the folds of the ground, higher reaches of the mountains, and from there they come down, come into the villages, and then make their plans. Now this is one aspect of how they operate. Second is, how did they have the details, satellite imagery? Your question is very valid, and the point is that over a period of time, Pakistan Army and those who serve in the Pakistan Army, they retire after some time, or they take premature. So it has been established by the intelligence agencies, and what one knows over experience is that these people get employed and they get used as terrorists, and they are happy to be used because they get paid for what they are doing. And then these people with a background knowledge of how military operations are conducted are also being inducted into these terrorist organizations. That's why it is difficult to separate as to who is a terrorist, who is an ex-military person or a retired ex-serviceman. This is all mixed up. They all get trained together, and the images are available to them as to what is happening where. So over a period of time, this entire process of tourism, now the third point, is what was happening in Pahalgam was that with the help of the civil ponies and the tourists, those who come over there, the travel agencies and all that, they are eventually, all commercial activities were happening. After Article 370, the tourism took a boom. So this is one place which they were being frequented. So it must have come to their notice that here that is where I would say a gap in intelligence. They would have sensed it. Okay, this is one area where we can target. So from that aspect, yes, their lessons have been learned from as to whether this could have been prevented. So your question is correct. But what I intended to tell you is that this infiltration, trying to search for targets inside the valley, support that they get from a few overground local workers, and then various areas where they can come, and caches that they have got of arms and ammunition, and how to make use of them. So it's a proper, well-designed and well-rehearsed activity which they do. They have communication sets, they have got their own networks, they have got the latest gadgets that they have got with them. GPSs that they have got. So things have over a period of time changed in J&K, and definitely this particular outfit which came was a well-trained outfit, and it was planned. It was planned. It had definitely the backing, because this happened immediately after the army chief of Pakistan, Munir. He had given some kind of provocative speech to a
Yes.
diaspora, and this he did.
He spoke about Kashmir being the jugular vein.
Jugular vein
Jugular
and
vein.
two nations, all these things he brought it up because this was a part of a well-designed plan, and this was executed. Unfortunately, they could execute it, was what happened. But then, that is how it is. That is the way we have to accept it, that these things should be prevented, but are not entirely preventable. But what is more important is a robust mechanism to prevent it, which we are always trying. There is, I won't call it intelligence failure, but a lesson learned is one what I'll say. And then we got an opportunity to show the world and to Pakistan, and to an extent even to China, that if this happens, what India can do. And so a lot of, I would say, takeaways and gains that we have got from actually this, of course, the heart and soul goes to those 26 of our
Unfortunates.
citizens whom we lost to the dastardly attack on that night. That, of course, you'll always feel and very, very sad. But the response,
Which is why there are a lot of questions here. And when those 26 citizens lost their life, it was done at point blank range.
And if I may use the correct word, targeted citizens.
Targeted citizens.
Specifically targeted citizens, and I'll leave it at that.
Specifically targeted citizens, yes. And there was so much precision, even that attack, that, I'm trying to corroborate two different things where we said that people are taking a lot of vacations in the Jammu and Kashmir. So the local support has probably dwindled, but like you said, there is some amount of support. But could these people of the TRF would have been closely affiliated with the Pakistani army as well? So the question is Pakistan now sending members of its army also to create such attacks or create such mischief in the Indian territory?
Possibilities are there, which you just covered.
I just covered. What I'm saying is that not serving, it is very difficult to fathom that any serving Pakistani, serving member of Pakistan's army would be sent do this. But what I just mentioned to you was that definitely the army hand in training these terrorists or giving intelligence to them, or even sending and roping in some of the retired ex-servicemen of Pakistan army into the terrorist outfits and then getting work done from them is not ruled out, and very highly a possibility that this is happening.
Yeah. And even China was involved in providing a lot of live satellite imagery using their Baidu technology and so many things to unpack here. But undoubtedly, after the Operation Sindoor happened, the star of that operation was the air defense system. And that leads me to a few questions that, obviously, the Air Force was monitoring the Indian skies continuously. So, do we have a very peculiar air defense system which is always at play day and night, which continuously tries to see or assess different threats from the enemy? It would be lovely to understand from you.
Especially along the border, specifically with the Pakistan border, we do have it day and night. More so because Sindoor hasn't been called off. It is very much in existence as we speak. Sindoor has just been paused. It hasn't been officially called off. So people are manning posts. The degree of preparedness may have taken itself a notch below. That's about it. So to answer your question, the air defense scenario, right from Jammu and Kashmir, right down till Bombay, it is one big shield today in the incorporation of something called Integrated Air Defense Command Control System Network, IACCS. In the larger framework, it's also called Akash Tir, and it involves amalgamation of all kinds of surveillance radars, whether they are long range, medium range, close range. The commensurate intermixing of these radars has taken place over the last 2 decades to such a fine point that the absorption of targeting can be managed very optimally, not only by the sector under threat, but the decision-making ability can be taken by the controlling command center or the tier above him sitting far away and helping, guiding or directing wherever the threat is coming from. This wasn't there 20 years back. This is very much in place today. And it continues to answer your question day and night from Kashmir right down till Bombay and larger Bombay area. Because Sindoor still hasn't been called off.
There were a couple of cases where there was one case which was the first in the world also, where one of our missiles took out a target which was 300 kilometers away, and then there were so many other incidences where the drones were also taken out, which were at a lower altitude. So when you talk about Akash Tir or the air defense system, which had a peculiar name, as you said, how is it organized? Does it have different defenses in place to take out different kinds of targets?
Yes. The radars are always there. Some are mobile. They keep moving. Most of these high performance radars, they are mobile as well and they are static as well. So you have the flexibility of its movement so that the enemy doesn't know where the positioning of these radars are. Having said that, most of these radars are intermixed amongst each other, working through sectors and working through what the army has. So we supplement the army at places, the army supplements us where we have our gaps. And they form a holistic envelope, which is what keeps us under surveillance, which helps us guide that kind of surveillance towards any kind of threat that we saw which came in numbers in terms of the drones that you mentioned, and in certain cases they did launch missiles. But just taking a moment out of this, like I said, to add on to what he said, we go back to the Balakot strike 5 years back, 6 years back. We did strike, we informed, and we waited for their response. There was a civilian government at that point in time. Their response was the next morning, and we had an aerial skirmish with them, not escalating it, just showing show of strength in the air. And there was an aerial engagement which everyone knows about between the F-16 and the MiG-21, wherein Abhinandan became famous. And he did a very good job.
What I want to add here,
The political leadership then decided that that is the extent to which the response would be, by not escalating. But in this case, after we informed them, after striking at their 9 terrorist locations, the response from their side, as General Lok has covered, has been one of deterministic revenge and escalation. Am I right?
yeah, absolutely. They could have just called it off, but they escalated the thing.
The moment that happened, we utilized this period of 15 days of preparatory time to go ahead with our plans of what we will do next based on their level of escalation or a reply from their side, which we were anticipating. But we did not, it is not that we did not anticipate this kind of a escalation, we were prepared for it. We were prepared for it, and that is why we achieved success, which is what you talked about just now within your question.
Yes. And one more change that also happened was that during Balakot, when the air skirmish happened and it was a very short operation, everybody was demanding for proof, I remember. And there was no visual proof that time. But a change in stance after Operation Sindoor was that the Air Force had lots of proof to be shown, and the air chiefs also showed it to the entire country. Yes. So the question is that, in modern warfare, has showing proof also become so much more important? And how has it changed from, from the Balakot strike to Operation Sindoor?
Also, because the general public have become quite aware. This is the information age. This is the age of electronic warfare. This is the age of information warfare.
Yeah.
For whatever reasons, we could not show proof, adequate proof. We did show certain damage images for that Balakot strike that we did. But this time, it was decided, and we had our surveillance equipment in place to bring out the damage caused and amplify it enough for the enemy to not be able to say that it has not been struck.
Tejas,
over the entire 4-day campaign, not only on the opening night.
Correct. What I want to say is that Romit just said Balakot 2019, and we have done now Sindoor 2025. One notable thing that should be taken cognizance of is that nothing that was used in 2019 was used in 2025.
You mean in terms of the military assets?
Yes, everything was for the first time. For example, the satellite imagery was not available in Balakot. Satellite imagery was available this time in Sindoor.
This level of satellite imagery,
the integration,
our own indigenous satellite imagery,
our own
indigenous satellite imagery.
We showed the missiles going in the...
These are all done because what we learned from Balakot and we implemented it in the next 4-5 years was one aspect was there. Second aspect was, of course, in how it was done was to NAVIC system, as they call it.
Yeah.
That is...
I think that's the one that the ISRO developed, no?
Exactly. And it has got a various 7 to 8 satellites in orbit today. It's got the Cartosats, it has got the RISAT, they call it, got the GSAT 5, 6 and all. It's got a cluster of satellites which are moving in a geostationary or geosynchronous orbits, and they're able to give you real-time, near real-time imagery. Of course, we need to improve. This is also, this time, one of the lessons that we have learned is how to further integrate and further improve our satellite imagery systems. So we'll need to maybe work further on that.
Yeah.
That is one aspect of getting. So what I was saying, second point that has come out is integration, and that is sensing. What AD does. What AD does, as we know, is you first sense
integration of surveillance sensors,
sense to shoot,
which never happened then in 2019.
Yeah,
this has happened, or it was in the formative stage then. This has actually been able to turn the tide of the 4-day conflict.
So it speaks volumes. The volumes of the progress that has been made not only by the 3 services but by ISRO, also by DRDO, also by HAL, and also by so many other agencies responsible for the defense of this nation.
Public sector undertakings.
The various private sector enterprises which have come into the drone technology, they have come into so many things that we...
The radar manufacturers, the missile manufacturers, BEL, the Akash missile manufacturers.
That is the biggest achievement, and that's why today...
The 6-year intervening period, we have really...
significantly upgraded.
Significantly upgraded.
And it has just begun.
Yeah.
This is the call of self-development through self-reliance, or Atmanirbharta. This is what it is.
Correct.
And now we are getting more players into it.
Yes.
The private players, people are galvanized.
Yeah.
So when we show these imageries, we want to also send a message to the rest of the country that when we have the resources within ourselves to make it and improve on it, why not do it for our own safety, security, and image portrayal across the globe?
Right. So those images, and I mean, it is safe to assume that in the future operations that will be fought, that the imagery is going to prove, or the visual proof is going to have two benefits. One is to tell the world that we did it, and also to inspire people within the country that we need to develop more and more technology in defense in itself.
Also, importantly, damage assessment, Tejas, there is something called a damage assessment. One is that you need to have proof, but the most importantly is whosoever is using that particular weapon platform must get a feedback about a damage assessment that weapon has done. That is extremely important for you to further, I would say, rectify or change the delivery that you're doing on that target. So damage assessment is extremely important. It gives you a correct feedback as to what you're doing is correct or not. True. That has given such a tremendous, bear me out, what we have done at certain targets, say in Noor Khan.
Yeah. On the airfield itself.
On the airfield itself. And
command and control centers, yes.
So, and
on the buildings.
Yeah. And the fact
the
that
planning headquarters.
You know, and the people who are delivering that, they know what their weapon system has done, how much confidence that they will get for the next round of operations.
True. I think this is more important, the point that you just brought out, that the people who are delivering those...
That is what I'm saying. Yeah. We now have the... See, we are looking only at...
They need a feedback, how good, how optimized has been their delivery.
Yeah.
In an out-and-out conflict, it can be done by fighters, which carry recce pods, which take pictures of the sites that have been bombed or bombarded. But if you don't want to increase your losses, and if an out-and-out conflict has not been started from both the sides, and it's a restricted conflict like it was this time, aircraft didn't cross each other's borders very much. The army didn't cross each other's borders at all. So future conflicts, Sindoor 2 might be similar. It's anybody's guess. So what do you have in its absence when you don't have fighter aircraft doing this bomb damage assessment, which he's familiar about? Then you rely on satellite imagery. And your satellite imagery, if it's not your own satellites, if it's not those high resolution cameras that you yourself have, the great powers are not going to be giving it to you so easily. Correct. They're keeping all that for themselves. Correct. So you have to develop all aspects of warfare within yourselves today, as has been shown that we are already on the path. The success of the Sindoor campaign has already shown that it has given dividends. True. And this is just the first step. It is only going to leapfrog from here.
There is a lot more to do.
A lot more will be achieved. We are already in the process of that. A lot of defense industries have come forward. Indigenous Indian defense industries, private players who want to shoulder the defense requirements of the country, whether Army, Navy, Air Force, paramilitary forces requirements, whatever, whether it's reconnaissance, whether it's weapons, whether it's platforms. I think we are on the correct track in
Absolutely.
a big way.
And that is where the question, so and there's a lot that we'll discuss in this episode also. But one question was that, while the Air Force was preparing to attack after Pahalgam, there was that 10-15 day period. And obviously the Operation Sindoor was not, we didn't cross the border. So to say, the foot soldiers were not in the Pakistani territory. But I'm curious to know that during these 10-15 days, what was the army doing? Because there are so many villages close to the LOC, and we'll talk about the 9 targets which were selected and how they were selected. We'll go behind the philosophy also. But what was the army's job during these 10-15 days while the Air Force was preparing for the air targeting to, let the villages on the border know that an attack might be coming? What goes into planning that kind of an operation from the army's end?
See, Army, as I mentioned to you, is always ready. And we got good about a fortnight's time to prepare ourselves. So what would have happened, of course, is what I can appreciate, I can guess, is that we got something called operational tasks, operational roles, and these are on the borders. As you know that in Northern Command especially, this time what we decided was that we are not going to generally mobilize what the way the plans were executed. General mobilization means what? That formations in the hinterland, those are in the peace stations, they will move on to the border, strike formation. That was not what was done this time. However, we have got adequate number of field formations which are very close to the border. One of our plans is to always have fighting formations close to the international border or line of control. In any case, line of control in J&K are in any case along the border. So from that point of view, all the operational readiness, as what we call it, which is required in terms of troops on the border and all weapon systems that are required, primed and ready on the border, was always there. So there is one aspect to it, is to wherever possible the troops close to the border went towards the border and you can say were into their operational roles. The second issue is, what if something happens and he wants to launch a conventional? Because after Sindoor went in, Pakistan did try his best to activate the borders. Right. From that point of view, we had, I'm sure, adequate troops along the line of control and the border to take to sort that out. So the second point is second line of defense, as we call it. It was also very much available, in my point of view. So that is the way we go about it. So operational preparedness is there. We were ready for it this time by forward deployments, right? So as we say, keep the powder dry, and we were ready for it. That is what we did. Exact in terms of, I may not be able to tell you, but the very fact is that we were ready on the border, and that's it.
And Operation Sindoor seemed to be like a full-scale laboratory for a lot of different kinds of weapons, where Pakistan was using Turkish drones, Chinese aircrafts, while India was using French aircrafts with missile platforms which were developed in collaboration with Russia and Russia, of course. So was this like a testing ground for different kind of weapons, and where different defense manufacturers across the world were trying to see how their weapons perform in active war, but it all came at the cost of India and I wouldn't say Pakistan, but it came at the cost of India's economic development and everything else during that time.
Definitely so. The weapon platform coming from a different country, the weapon by itself coming from a different country, and its utilization, they always pose challenges. For the last 30 years, I think we have been able to overcome this element of restriction on interoperability of both these things and get the best out of it through sustained testing and consistent improvement. So whether it's the PGMs that have evolved from Kargil, or the precision guided bombs, optical or laser guided bombs, which were used for the terrorist camp attacks, airborne, air launched, very precise, very accurate, with ranges close to 150 kilometers plus. And not only from Balakot time, when they were used on the terror camps at that point in time, the new ammunitions which came in, they were actually tested out for their effectiveness, and they proved their effectiveness on the first night itself. Now, these are weapon platforms which launched foreign mix of weapons. Now I come to something very specific that you might have been waiting for. On all these different kinds of airborne weapon platforms, we, on most, not all, we integrated, tested, and we were ready with our own indigenous BrahMos 1.0. And the effectiveness of the supersonic missile, air to ground, with precision strike, close to about 400 to 450 kilometers of range, made one of our defense planners to publicly mention after the pause button was hit that anyone can be hiding anywhere in Pakistan, and we'll get you there. Because we're already in the process of coming out with BrahMos 2.0, which is going to be double the range of BrahMos 1.0. What Pakistan doesn't have as compared to what we have is something called defense in depth. Pakistan is a north-south country. Its lateral expanse is not very much. So with the border from Kashmir right till Bombay or North Gujarat, it has a finite amount of distance before Iran and Afghanistan happens on its western side. So we have the firepower in the form of BrahMos 2.0 and some more in the pipeline, which is going to be coming up and which is going to be causing even more devastating effect than what BrahMos 1.0 launched from the Rafale or launched from the Su-30 MKIs or the Mirages have already shown this time in these 3 days. Because when they retaliated, to use the right word, after our initial strike and the DGMO informed, like General said, the escalation matrix was something that they could have decided upon. They decided a higher escalation matrix. The moment they did that, it allowed us to open our cards, and to get back to your air defense aspect, we went in for something called suppression of enemy air defense. That is called the SEAD, wherein we targeted their radars through electronic surveillance, where we knew, though they may have been and they are mobile, and took them out. We took their surface-to-air guided missile sites, like he said, couple of HQ-9 sites, and opened a corridor wherein should the actual air response take place, which we did not escalate to that level that fighter aircraft start moving across borders. We had created that corridor. And notwithstanding that, from standoff ranges, which we've already achieved with the efficacy of the BrahMos, we were able to knock them down in 2 days' time, 9 air bases, bring them to their knees, that their DGMO had to actually call up, and he was kept waiting for 12 hours before we finally responded. So that is the effect of the utilization of offensive air defense, which is what we have taken place, which we have utilized, and that's how it has taken place.
One important point.
A lot of it with the UAVs, with decoy UAVs.
The UAVs are the drones.
Yes, unmanned aerial vehicle or drones. And I would say anti-radiation drones, in terms of what you may have seen in movies, seeking out their radars and enemy missile defenses.
But this leaves me a question, that when there were so many drones being shot down by our S-400s and Akash, was it being done on purpose by Pakistan, that they were sending in the Chinese drones or the Turkish drones to basically map out the territories of our country and see where the S-400s or the Akash is actually active?
Definitely.
So should there be an Operation Sindoor 2.0?
No, in this what they were trying was that how much of signature they can get of where our radars are, and they wanted to actually identify the exact locations by sending in these drones, and to see how we are firing back. And firing back would mean we are sensing, so we would have revealed our location. But what actually happened was, against the drones, he was sending in those swarm drones, some of them armed, some of them not armed. Quality of those drones was not so, I would say, effective. So from that point of view, larger caliber weapons that we had, S-400s, and they were, and even Akash, were not generally used against the drones per se. These drones were more or less tackled by the deployed
Close-in missile and the enemy and the
and
anti-aircraft.
they are very effective. For example, the Shilkas, the Zu-23s, these are
with the
Army.
the army.
Yes.
Okay.
They are the AD weapons with the army, and they have got a very, very, I would say, very efficient and very accurate weapons. And they got a solid rate of fire, 2,000 rounds per minute and things like that. The Zu-23s and the Shilkas. So they took on most of these drones. And so what the adversary wanted at that point of time is to get as early as possible the locations of our higher and longer range AD weapon systems, which we, because of our integrated AD networks, which he just explained in
IACCS.
great detail, IACCS, which not only is integrated but also are able to acquire targets in an integrated manner, automatically the weapon systems correctly to be used for that kind of enemy object coming in was used.
Threat
Enemy
index.
coming in, threat index. So that was one of the greatest achievement of this operation. One of the biggest, that we proved that we showed adequate amount of restraint of not using our longer trajectory weapons and only using them when we required to use them against the correct targets, whereas the shorter range targets were taken on by the local weapon systems that we had in the AD formations, army formations that we had. Even the Air Force have their own short range missiles which they use. So that is one of the things which comes out.
Just to appreciate what we are discussing here in this episode, I would like to share something. I was watching a documentary on the Kargil war. It must have been made by one of these big channels. I don't remember which one. But at that point in time, the documentary showed that our aircrafts or the Indian Air Force did not have laser-guided bombs at that point in time, and the attack helicopters were also commissioned into a very, very difficult terrain to neutralize the Pakistani camps. From that kind of a scenario in the 2000s to 2025, when this operation was fought, that was a long drawn war. This was like just a 4-day operation. The duration of the operation has gotten shorter. We have our Navik this time. We have the Rafales. We have the Brahmos. We have our Su-30s. We have the Mirages, of course.
And we have the munitions also.
We have the munitions also. And then
we have drones to deploy those.
Then we have drones,
also.
And then we also have all the services using a platform which is talking to each other. We have truly come a long way.
The first step.
Absolutely.
This is just the first step. We are going to leapfrog very soon.
But then they still said that we lost a few Rafales in this Operation Sindoor. What would you want to say about that, squadron leader?
Being a thoroughbred Air Force man, I would go along with what my colleague has already said in the public domain.
Yeah.
That Operation Sindoor has yet not been called off, for reasons best known to the planners and the higher operators of the campaign, the air campaign, whether the losses have been ratified, whether the losses have been there in the first place, or whether the losses haven't taken place. They want to keep everyone guessing, and so we go along with them. Finally, it is they who are actually doing the job for the country and for all of us.
And of course,
So if they have, yes, and deception is also another element of war to keep the enemy guessing.
The buzzword these days is narratives.
And who knows, we might be having a magic ace up our sleeve. So we just keep it closed.
Who truly knows? I know.
And in 2019, we had the downing of Abhinandan taking place and the F-16 getting lost. But now it's a different kind of a wargaming scenario which is happening. So let's keep the guessing game going.
But one lesson learned, what you just wanted to mention here, was that on the 7th morning, when we had finished our strikes, in the next 8 to 10 hours, what actually Pakistan was doing, I would say in a very proactive manner. I was that time in San Jose, Cupertino in California, on 7th morning. I was there on a holiday. And most of the media, local media, CNN, BBC, when I switched it on in the morning US time, were talking about what you just mentioned. So the narrative building and false propaganda is what our adversary, Pakistan, was very proactively building up this kind of a narrative. So most of the, I would say, media which was reporting from outside, that is from the Western countries, were talking about how they were not talking about India as a victim of terror. Very important, this aspect. And India thereafter retaliating in a very, very calibrated and a designed way, non-escalatory manner. But they were talking about India as the aggressor. And so this kind of, I would say, ambiguity about what actually happened, nobody was supporting India actively.
For a long time.
The long time that India has been a victim of terror.
This is an important geopolitical dimension which General Oak is bringing out.
Yes.
Extremely, this was what it was. Then it took some little time, a day, 24 hours for the Indian side to understand this, and then we started the joint briefings which we had, press briefings that we had, in a very calm, composed and a correct manner, that we put across exactly what we were doing and what
And only what happened.
only what happened. So somewhere we believed in our actions and we believed that we were accurate and we had destroyed what we wanted to. Our aims were getting achieved. So the proof of the pudding lies in the eating, as they say. So we demonstrated that, and we said that later on the truth will come out. So, but somewhere this lesson has been learnt, what you just mentioned, that we need to build our stories and our narratives in a little more preemptive and a more proactive manner.
More proactive and comprehensive
manner.
This
So that,
happened,
because it's very important to spread the correct information across the, because the whole world is watching, and we must.
This happened, if I may add on to what he said. Pakistan and certain people over here question as to the proof of the abettors, the proof of the terrorists. It started from there. And Pakistan maintained that are they homegrown terrorists? Pakistan has got nothing to do with it. We don't know who's come and done it. You haven't been able to nab them. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right, absolutely.
You haven't been able to nab them. You don't know who they were, 6 of them, 8 of them, who they were. They may have been the local people over there with a AK-47 in their hands who've done it and who've run away.
True.
With this narrative, how can you internationally go up the escalation index?
And that is where we achieved a big victory.
And that is what they played on all the time. And they got sympathy, empathy from the Western world.
So
initially,
we learned from that lesson, and look, within a couple of months, SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, they come out with the statement that Pahalgam was a terror attack, and they have condemned
last fortnight.
The last fortnight. So from
officially,
officially. Yes. So I think everywhere the various, I would say, apparatus that has to work towards media management, towards perception management, towards it has worked. And today an organization like SCO, which traditionally is keeping India always on the back foot, and India is just coming to it as an observer.
Yes.
Right, and Pakistan also has come in as an observer, and which is China-centric, with most of the countries from the Central Asian region. They have today condemned Pahalgam, in the presence of the Pakistani Prime Minister, who was very much there, Shahbaz Sharif. That is, I personally feel, is a very, very good achievement in terms of our foreign policy. So you see, it is all organs and all pillars of the nation come together in situations like Sindoor.
I totally agree. I mean, fighting a war is no longer a single variable scenario, so to say. There are multiple variables which are fought on the ground and fought via the foreign policy and so many other aspects. A couple of
Army, Navy, Air Force, if I may say, they have come together in a proper, strong, joint manner in Operation Sindoor. The electronic ability and compatibility has also come out in a very strong manner.
electronic ability of
All our weapons and target acquisition and our communication
The
systems,
surveillance platforms, everything is
everything
electronic.
is now electronic. Everything has come together. What needs
How
to,
you handle the
what needs
electronic
to-
spectrum.
What needs to come together further is somewhere our psychological warfare, our media handling, these aspects, the softer aspects of warfare are in today's world as important as the harder aspects of warfare.
we spoke about building of narratives which were being built as the operation was being executed by the Army and the Air Force. Then there was a geopolitical angle to it, and I believe that while those narratives were being built, there was also an economic angle to it. In which way? That, like we said, that it was a lab of sorts of ammunition and various platforms being supplied by different suppliers across the world. And when the Indian Air Force downed so many Pakistani jets which were supplied by the Chinese, that meant a downfall for the companies that manufactured those jets in China. So in fact, you must have heard that the share prices in China of those manufacturers also fell down. So there was so much of conflicting narrative which was being built, which brings me to the fog of war. A funny thing that was happening was when the Operation Sindoor was in play, and on the night of 8th, I believe, or the 7th, when we were also following the news very keenly, the fog of war was giving us all sorts of information. We were hearing that the tanks had crossed the borders, and the Karachi port was destroyed. The Navy had already taken down, and maybe the POK was also captured. So, my question is this fog of war deliberately created? And General, you also mentioned that we have to get even better at psychological warfare in days to come. Is this fog of war deliberately created? Is it also one of our weapons?
I think it's a bit of both. Is what I feel.
Yes.
Fog of war is an inevitability for those who are actually who are fighting the war, right? Because war is fought in waves, in phases, and the first phase of a war is always intense. And before the phase one is launched, there is something what we call a preliminary or a preemptive strikes, which happens. All this, there is a flurry of activity, a flurry of events that merge into each other in the initial part of a war, and that is the time when everybody is gung-ho, everybody is wanting to achieve the objectives as early as possible, and that is what actually creates so much of information load that comes in. And whenever information load happens about what is happening to the frontline troops, what exactly is, for example, if you're in the army, if you're facing the enemy, and if at night, if I may tell you, the fog, nighttime noises, artillery shelling, if I can just take you and build up a scenario for you, in that the tanks, enemy aircraft are coming from top. So one tank revving up and making that noise at night and advancing, it appears that at least 10 tanks are coming. Invariably, the reports are inflated. Reports are sometimes exaggerated. So this is where the commanders who are on the spot, they have to take the correct decisions as not to overreact, to assess coolly, think on your feet. One thing we have always learned, think on your feet and then take decisions. So the fog of war has resulted in so many, I would say, interesting tales and so many interesting stories in which Sometimes there were victories, sometimes there were failures, but there were always
It's always
twists and in the tales that happens. Anyway, so that is one aspect. Then coming down to what you said is the media and the reports that come through the media. Now, how does, what I understand, our media, there are two aspects to our media, what I say. One is the press bureau, which is a government body and which takes inputs in a very correct manner, diligent manner, and are quite correct about what they want to report, and they're accurate and factual. And the, say, for example, government media platforms. But there are other players,
The private players.
the private players in our country. We are a democracy, although we have got certain guidelines for them. My only thing is that these media people need also to be given weapons so that they themselves can be launched in war. The way they report, because if you see, sometimes it is maybe planned also, like what happened with bombing of the Karachi harbour. And see, they are also, the adversary also is following what is going on in the media channels. So if you went through Operation Sindoor and see how media was reporting, it was reporting what was happening across the front. All the three services they were reporting. But importantly, if you look at the naval aspects, they portrayed the Navy as if the aircraft carrier has moved ahead and we have gone and we have bombed Karachi and we have sorted out Karachi.
and Karachi is gone. Yeah.
And along with that, I mean, this is a very a good example which I feel is officially I think the naval channels, they said that we have effectively bottled up the Pakistani air assets ex-Karachi towards the Sindh side. And so this report's coming from the media, the naval official channels also saying that we have been effectively able to bottle the enemy's naval assets and the Air Force assets which are coming from the side of Sindh and those areas. So that effectively prevented any reinforcements from, I believe, from crisscrossing and reinforcing what was being affected in his Punjab side, Pakistani Punjab.
Rajasthan side.
So there is definitely some kind of a benefit that you can get from such media reporting, but there is, as I said, a bit of both. Sometimes very exaggerated reports go out where nothing had actually happened. Naval was not actively engaged in any kind of a combat situation, but they were a threat in being. That is what their strategy was, to bottle up his naval and air force assets opposite to the Indian Navy, which was showing a show of force was what they had done. So that is and so that is the way the fog of war actually works, and sometimes it works for the benefit, and it's an inevitability in any case on the actual battlefront when you are fighting a war.
True. So the fog might have been there, like I gather, but the naval assets there, in case of the Karachi bombing fog, which was being floated, the naval assets were ready for any eventuality. That's what it probably meant. Yeah. You know, we talking about the targets that were selected, the 9 targets that were selected, and finally, when Pakistan was brought to its knees by the Air Force, we had struck Sargodha, Chaklala, and Rahimyar Khan, and there were reports in the media which also said that is where Pakistan actually stored its nuclear assets, and we got them. So it would be nice to know from you whether we destroyed some amount of the nuclear assets there, and what was the philosophy behind even identifying those targets, and how did we do? Was our mission completed?
Again, my answer to that would be on the lines of open domain paradigm. We won't know if there were nuclear assets which were kept, whether they were Pakistan nuclear assets or whether they were American nuclear assets. This hasn't been confirmed, neither by the Pakistanis, neither by the Americans, and nor been claimed by the Indian planners and the operators. Am I right, Manoj? Yes. So we did do targeted bombing by use of precision guided munitions, in which brahmos was a very important element of that, and we did strike 11 targets. I might as well carry it out in terms of mentioning it. The Command and Control Center at Noor Khan Air Base, the planning headquarters at Rahimyar Khan Air Base, the UAV and radar sites at Sukur were taken out. The AEW aircraft which were there for maintenance at a base called Solari, that was bombed, the hangar was bombed. Sargoda, which is the jewel piece of the Pakistani Air Force, like our two big bases, Adhampur and Halwara. Sargoda was bombed right in the middle of the runway. That's the major F-16 base there. The secondary F-16 base is called Jacobabad. That was also bombed. So, in addition to 6 radars and 2 HQ-9 Chinese battery SAGWs, wherein our potential has proved to be better than what they had deployed, we've taken 3 hangars out of contention. As I covered, an AEWC aircraft which was there in the hangar and the F-16 actually there for maintenance has been knocked off. And as reported by the chief in his lecture, by the S-400 itself and combined Akash system, 5 Pakistani fighters were taken down. We have proof of them. And the first long-range kill on a AEW, that means Airborne Early Warning Command and Control help in the air. 1 aircraft was taken down at a range of close to 300 to 350 kilometers from the missile firing site. They didn't expect it. Their way of handling their own air interceptors against us, it put a full stop to that. If not a full stop, it made them jar. It made them jar up so much that they had to now start thinking in different ways of engagement. But having done damage to 9 of their airfields and the threat of repeating it onto the same 9 or increasing that, literally the planning headquarters being hit, the command and control network center being hit, with the reserves like we talked of, and with the fighting strength that Pakistan Air Force had, the planners over there quickly realized that they won't be able to sustain the conflict for a longer period of time. So rather than lose that and build it up in peacetime, which will take a lot of time, energy and money, they decided to call it off 12 hours before we called it off from our side.
I mean, it's so fascinating to listen into all those targets again, even though we are shooting this episode almost 3, 4, 5 months later, because we are going to discuss the aftermath. But we took out their radar assets. We downed their 5 fighter aircrafts, and not just that, we also created big craters on the runway so that their critical assets like the F-16s could not fly. Was it too severe? Was Operation Sindoor too severe for the Pakistanis?
It was, in terms of their assessment of warfighting capability, to sustain this kind of a damage as the days might progress. So they took a rational decision to at least send out a message to call it off to the Indian DGMO, who delayed taking that call for at least 9 to 12 hours. And
Shock and awe.
But then there is also an American angle to this, that when they decided to call it off, in few hours, they were also given that $1 billion aid by the Americans. And there are many theories to why that $1 billion aid was given. But it would be fascinating to understand from you also what might have transpired before we move into the geopolitics of all this.
It's conjecture as to why that aid was immediately given. In case they were American weapons and they were actually affected or afflicted, since it has not been acknowledged by our planners and operators in the public domain, it would be wise not to come to a decision by any thinking mind on it, and leave it to what is there, how America has responded to it, without acknowledging its presence over there in terms of weapon stockpile. Let's leave it at that, whether nuclear or non-nuclear, and that having got affected, and also forcing at least the Pakistani establishment in asking them to reaching out to the military counterpart over here and asking for a ceasefire.
True.
That is to the extent I think I can be able to answer this part of the question.
And the rest of it, the Pakistani military leadership or the political leadership was also speaking to certain channels where they mentioned things like, they had been doing the dirty work for America for decades, and maybe we'll leave it at that. But talking about the geopolitical angle here, and if we look at, if we pose a question, like you rightly said, that Operation Sindoor is not finished, it is halted. And if it happens again, then, in what shape and form could it happen? That's one question. But if we look at the geopolitical angle, then we see that, India as a country, we are the way we are. Our policy is to not use our weapons the first time. Our foreign policy is also to inflict damage only so far as it is required. Like even in this operation, we took down the terrorist network, the terrorist camps, so to say. But all around us, countries are falling apart. Like we saw what's happening in Sri Lanka. We know that what's happening in Bangladesh. The American army is there in Bangladesh. We have China as a problem. We have Pakistan is anyways there. Are we doing a fire walk of sorts, where we are fending ourselves, but everybody around us is forcing us to fight? And could you talk a little bit more on this?
To a large extent, yes.
I'll start this by talking about the Indo-US relations first. I'll take it that way. It was expected that after Trump came in for the second term, and considering the past, I would say, tenure of Trump, wherein he and, US and America had quite reasonably good relations with each other in terms of defense pacts, in terms of economic issues, so many things. Suddenly things changed when Trump announced the tariffs and the trade wars. Somewhere I would say that the trade wars and India's perceived, second point, closeness to Russia and our collaboration with them for the oil and amount of economic, I would say, pacts that we have with them, and our defense, as you know, wherewithal, our armament is primarily Russian, right? So this is the second point. So somewhere or the other, the US over a period during this second term of Trump has definitely somersaulted. It has shifted sides.
Yes.
That is one, and it's a very major impact on India, which has got China to deal with in any case. And recently, our relations with China have been, we know what it is after what happened in Doklam and later on what happened in Galwan, that our stand is a very principled stand, that unless the border, the line of actual control is de-escalated, you really cannot think of having peace and better relations. That can only come out in case, you show some kind of intent, and that intent of improving relations with India is only when you solve or start doing something on the LAC, what we are requesting you, what we are demanding also of you. That is the angle which is there. And coming down to the immediate neighborhood, all that we know has been created.
Yes.
It is not indigenous only.
It has been created.
It has been created. So
whether
that
it's Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal.
Engineered. So all this is, and we have got a principled, I would say, foreign policy of multi-alignment, as we say. We are no longer non-aligned, we are a multi-aligned country. And we are clear and firm about it.
Are we forced to be multi-aligned because we have so many different neighbors and so much is happening around us?
You're right. This is what has been perceived by, I'm sure, our experts in the subject, and that I also feel the same. That they have realized that unless you are multi-aligned, you got more options. Like today, after the tariff and the trade war, we have to look at alternative options, alternative markets, where where we have lost out on a market in terms of our important engineering goods or other goods that we are losing. That we need to look at other avenues, and unless you have multi-aligned, you can't put your eggs only in one basket. We have to spread them out, and that is what we have done, and that is what actually is where the US seems to be have changed their policy towards us, and also the fact that they require Pakistan at this point of time. Let's bring in that factor also. Like we have spoken about China, and why Pakistan today has assumed importance, and why he's having lunch with Trump and issues like that is primarily it's very
because
clear.
of strategic assets that Pakistan has allowed itself to keep and
also,
utilization of its air bases.
Also, the importance of Afghanistan and Iran from the US point of view, and militarily, if US has to do something against these countries, then Pakistan acts as a base. As you said, Pakistan is very happy to give itself as a base. So Pakistan, as someone said, US uses Pakistan as a tissue paper. Use it and throw it. And Pakistan is very happy to be used as
getting some money for free.
So this is the overall scenario in which India is now walking a tightrope, is in my opinion, and these are challenging times. And now, after Sindoor having happened, now you put into context Sindoor, having said the geopolitical situation and the fact that increasingly we are made to walk a tightrope and maybe walking it alone. So that's why Atmanirbharta and other issues become so very important.
That takes very big
importance. But we can't fill up the gaps required immediately after what has happened in Sindoor. Atmanirbharta will take time. By the time you are able to develop your own indigenous high-class weapon system. So the gaps that we have identified in Sindoor, how to plug those gaps and still be ahead of the technological curve of Pakistan and
China
somewhere
combined.
Debtor China is where our entire challenges lie. So here is a huge challenge in front of our country. We are a democracy. Our defense allocation in terms of GDP has never crossed more than
3.5%.
No, never. Not even 3, 1.5. For our to be able to acquire what we want to acquire in terms of the latest technology, which we have to plug the gaps, as we discussed in terms of various weapon platforms that we require, both indigenously built as well as certain things we have to acquire. For example, he'll be able to tell us as to how the Air Force wants to plug the gaps in terms of fighter squadrons, how in the army we need a more amount of course we are not only manpower but the latest weaponry in terms of artillery and in terms of our whatever missiles that we want to, many other aspects are there which we need to bring in all three. So that will require as a nation our outlook is changing, but for this outlook to change, a larger amount of budget allocation is definitely the way out, that the only way out for us to be self-reliant, resilient, and to be able to take on a revengeful and a very deceitful and a mischievous enemy called Pakistan, which can go to any extent to destabilize our growth as a nation. And this time in Sindoor, we must also flag this point, is we fought one front, two-nation war, in which China very actively gave whatever it could give to Pakistan.
Correct.
It's weaponry,
real-time help,
real-time information, and their manpower. In fact, if I'm not wrong, some of their manpower is also deployed.
Part of the casualty list.
And America gave its aid.
And Americans will continue to give the aid. So this is where we are. Our challenges lie. There are quite a lot of challenges.
And this is where the next question is, that where like you rightly pointed out, the army needs officers, the army needs automated weapons, fighter aircraft squadrons are being retired. In war we may lose a few assets or we may not. And then there is our indigenous Tejas LCA, which is also being developed, but it's going to take time to actually build up all this technology and power. So and then on the other hand, the general mentioned that we were fighting a Chinese enemy perhaps during Operation Sindoor, and America has also changed sides. So at the outset, with this background, if Operation Sindoor or any other war happens again with our squadrons being retired and so much more to do, are we truly prepared?
We are prepared with what we have. We are well prepared with what we have. But what we have has been dwindling. We need replacements. The Tejas, the LCA, which manifested itself into the Tejas, hasn't seen the kind of gap filling that it was perceived to be. Primarily, not because the aircraft manufacture has not taken place, it's because its supporting engine, which is being supplied by the Americans, have not been coming at the rate at which India wanted it. There have been issues with that engine itself. Having overcome those issues, I'm sure there must be other buyers all across the planet. So they have a priority list drawn up, and they must be distributing whatever is in production, and that is causing the delay. So Tejas induction in a big way to replace the MiG-21s, which is getting phased out end of this week as we speak, after 6 decades. At one time, the Air Force had 45 squadrons. Half of that strength was only MiG-21s, and I've been in that period. But today, we are down to 30 squadrons. End of the week, we'll be down to 29. We need replacements. For cutting edge war, you need cutting edge aircraft, and they have to be replaced fast. Like he said, what is in the pipeline takes time to manufacture. If you start manufacturing an engine, the Kaveri engine has had problems and it's not seen the light of day operationally. Similarly, the stealth aircraft that we have in mind, the AMCA, will take time. But we already have an adverse neighbor, a huge adverse neighbor in the form of China, which is flying its not one but two kinds of stealth aircraft of different generation technology, the J-20 and the J-35. I am told that the J-35 has been offered to the Pakistanis themselves. So very soon we'll have an asymmetry in the Indian subcontinent. As it is, it exists on the Chinese side, it will be existing on a western flank also. So it's not a very comfortable situation. So in case we need to do gap fill, we will have to do gap fill for whatever cost. Like he said, the budgetary allocation has to go above the pay and pension part. It has to be in a separate band, and thereafter the acquisition amount of budget has to go up to buy more aircraft, more contemporary aircraft, whether it's any stealth aircraft, which you procure it from either Russia or from America. These are the only two countries which produce stealth aircraft apart from China. We can't buy the Chinese aircraft. They're not going to offer it to us.
We have been forced into it, because what Sindoor has indicated, it was told us, is Pakistan is going to acquire this from China. China is going to equip Pakistan. Moment it gets the 5th generation aircraft or the latest in stealth or in their submarines or wherever where they go for more acquisitions, we are left with no choice. For Sindoor to be ahead of the technological curve. We won Sindoor because our weapon platforms and definitely our planning processes were ahead of in terms of the qualitative edge that we had over Pakistan. Are we going to maintain that in the next few years ahead as we look at our short-term, mid-term, and long-term aims is what is
We
the
have to.
challenge. We have to do
Whether
that.
it's refuelers.
And the only way we do that is through budget. It doesn't
Yes.
come from anywhere else.
It's not just fighter aircraft.
And technology can't be built
It's not
indigenous.
just fighter aircraft.
Immediately.
It's not just fighter aircraft. It's refuelers. It's AWCs, the whatever you call them, the airborne early warning aircraft. We're talking of two kinds of drones. We have to develop them ourselves. One is the surveillance drones, which locate the enemy radars. The others are the soldier drones, the armament infested drones, which actually take out, and they have onboard armament which they use, like you've seen in movies, to take out whatever targets and replace where you would not want to send in a fighter aircraft. So these kinds of technologies integrated with what we already are building on, whether it's air defense structure or whether it is the satellite imagery, surveillance and communication structure, along with the electronic warfare mesh that is taking place, everything needs to be upgraded and at a very fast pace, because we must keep in mind, whether it's Sindoor 2.0 or any other engagement that will take place, you'll always have a huge China angle over there. And that is something we have to be very mindful of.
And one more important point is that in addition to what Pramit said, Sindoor was the highest level of a sub-conventional conflict. Sub-conventional meaning that without going in for conventional war, that is putting your boots on ground in enemy territory and conventional might of your combat arms against the enemy, we launched our weapon platforms as a precision attacks on chosen enemy targets.
Because we had them.
Because we had them.
Pakistan didn't have them.
But we should not go away with the lessons only from Sindoor. We have to see that the adversary may not repeat Sindoor, but may try and do something different. So the only way is to keep increasing our conventional capability also. We should, that is long drawn out warfare, conventional warfare, which is fought conventionally, in which we are aware what I'm talking about. That is where we should not lose sight of while preparing ourselves for our conventional capabilities, logistics, sustenance that is required in terms of operational logistics, especially our armaments, our ammunition, and of course our manpower. With that, we have to bring in latest state-of-the-art weapon technology as lessons learned from Sindoor, but should not forget the importance of conventional warfare.
But what is the probability of, and this is while before we close, what if the enemy does nothing of the above and decides to fight an asymmetrical war like they did during the Taj Mahal Hotel attack in Mumbai, which was directly into the cities but not on the borders?
That's a good question. If something of that kind of a thing happens, and the probability of it can happen, we have to be alive to that happenstance. Should it happen, the new paradigm, which has already been stated by the national leadership, is already in place. Like the General covered it right in the beginning of the podcast, that any act of terror, whether it is on defense establishments, whether it's on government related establishments, or it is in the public or civil domain, would be taken as an act of war, and we decide the new rules of engagement. We are not going to inform, we are just going to react to the terror the way we want to and immediately. And that is when we will hit them very hard, unlike we have done in the past. It will be something like a day 2 of this Operation Sindoor campaign, starting from the word go.
And a lot depends also, Tejas, on in what happens internally inside Pakistan. We must also keep an eye on that. Today, Pakistan is imploding. This is a very important point. Balochistan is on the verge of they are very actively engaging in insurgency, and Pakistan is fully involved in Balochistan. It's a matter of time, that's what they say. It's a ticking time bomb there. And on the Afghan border, the Tehreek-e-Taliban is that monster which has now started acting against who created that, right? So that is also a very, very volatile border in which things are very, very tough for Pakistan army especially. So in a way, what he does inside India is basically a diversionary tactic,
Yes.
which he employs to divert the attention of the population from what is happening actually within Pakistan, and it's very safe and very easy for him to do something matlab, in Pakistan, in J&K, and divert the attention of the people of Pakistan. People of Pakistan. And that is where, again, that is one of the spin which can happen in our territory, and we have to be very alert on that. And it is not in our hands. If today Pakistan is imploding, very conveniently he attaches most of the reasons what's happening in Balochistan and attributes it to India.
Covert operations.
India has never gone and justified or told anyone that we are doing or not doing. We don't have to build that narrative. It is happening within Pakistan. It is their problem. It is their own people who don't want to stay within Pakistan. And same thing may happen in other provinces. So if that happens, then it is the impact, which chhidke bolte na, that will go into the neighboring countries, and India is the first target of Pakistan. So you have to be alert from that angle and keep watching what's happening inside Pakistan, which is imploding today.
An imploding Pakistan, or a frightened Pakistan, as we may say it, because if it is imploding, the leaders there are going to be frightened. At what point in time does the N word, the nuclear word, come into the picture? And can a frightened Pakistan also resort to the nuclear button, where they just press it and we get into a whole different kind of a war?
Well, they have already declared it publicly. When the very existence of the Pakistan territory stops being as a state of existence, that means it has so badly been plundered, it has so badly been bruised by, in this case, by the Indian forces. When the very existence of the nation state that Pakistan is an impending question mark, they will not hesitate to not use the nuclear button. That nuclear option that they'll use will not be just one weapon. It will be a series of weapons which are already aimed at many nerve centers of India. We have a no first use policy, but we must also bolster ourselves to be able to take that kind of a nuclear hammering and have our response ready. And our response should be now to finish off Pakistan once and for all.
I think the next round will be more devastating for Pakistan. That's what you're asking me, because if it ventures to do once again any kind of mischief, and if that mischief is attributed and proven to the rest of the world by India first that this is what Pakistan has done, and then we will sort them out once and proper, whichever it is. I mentioned last time, conventional capabilities of both the nations, war waging capacities of both the nations are not the same. We have an edge over Pakistan. How much China actively comes in is a question mark. Time will tell, but then this is what we are. We can't choose our neighbors. That's what I said. I mean, that's our reality. True. Our reality is that a very irresponsible kind of a leadership and very weak democratic leadership, actually a sham of a leadership in Pakistan, which is democratic leadership, which is actually being controlled. Like we know it that every nation has an army. Pakistan's army has a nation. It's more and more true today. And so anything can happen. Anything can actually happen. It is very difficult to predict. And it is like crystal ball gazing. You can choose.
We have to be prepared. We have to be
very prepared. And,
only prepare.
for
We have
our
to be
country,
aware.
our country defense preparedness as a top priority is a change that must be inculcated from top to bottom in our as a nation as such. Only then we will be prepared for the next round, and we should be ready for the next round.
Thank you so much for coming to the InnoTalk studio today, General Squadron Leader. The biggest takeaway that I am taking home today after this episode is that I suddenly remembered Sri Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita, and I had asked General Manoj this question the last time, that how does one come up with the very sentiment of revenge, even though we are fighting human versus human. But then, like Sri Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, that inaction is always a crime. We have to be prepared for whatever the eventuality, and if we are not prepared, that is also a crime perhaps.
Yes.
So I think we need to keep on acting on. That's the biggest message that I'm taking, whether it be in war or in any walk of life. Preparing ourselves continuously has to be the only game. Thank you so much for coming to the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.